You know, I think the thing that kind of epitomizes what we just watched was a conversation we had before we went live. And there are actually two conversations. The first was when, I'm like, are we ready to go? Evan's like, hey, anyone need to vomit? And what was your line, Jackie?
This team is not worth my vomit.
Yes. So that captures it. And then the other thing that captures this is, you all ask me, all right, I don't cuss really a lot on my streams just because, not because I have any strong aversion to it, just because I just don't, because I get ad revenue or whatever. And, Evan's like, can we cuss now? And so here's what captures how this was. What the fuck was that? Okay. Like I'm leading off with an F-bomb. What the fuck was that we just watched? This was dog shit. All right, there we go. So that set the tone. We all know what kind of game this was. So I would ask you how y'all are doing, but I know how you're doing. You're doing the same way I am, right? Just really frustrated. So let Jackie give us your initial, just kind of your opening comments on this game. We'll get into studs and duds and our general observations. I just got off my chest what I'm thinking and feeling. Let it loose.
This was a game that we absolutely needed to win. We should have won. There was no excuse for us not to win. And for a back of a better term, we shit the bed. It was just the most offensive disaster I've seen all season. Probably Kyler's worst game that I've seen in a long time. Bad coaching, bad offense all around. And you would not expect this team on paper with the weapons that we have to look like this. And it's just not looking good from here on out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Evan, your opening thoughts.
We're a bad team. We are a miracle away from being 1-5.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Cliff Kingsbury decided to forego 3 field goals, and we botched an extra point that could have made it 19-19 right there. I think it was Jody Oler that posted that earlier. I forget who on Twitter I saw that from. And Seattle's defense was ranked 32nd in yards per game, yards per pass, points per game. They were 31st. Just about every major category, they were dead last, or for sure bottom third. And we conjured up, with all of Cliff's offensive genius skills behind him, 3 points. There's other factors that went into this, and I want to get into, but this really needs to be stated. This was Cliff Kingsbury's arguably worst coached game in his career as an Arizona Cardinals football coach.
I think he's had worse coach games, and it's not a high bar, but we'll get into that for sure, right? What's up? We got Jay in the Bay. What's good? Who's worse? The 49ers or Cardinals? 49ers.
Well, we're worse, bro.
We're worse. Absolutely. We are worse. So, Jay, appreciate you. Really good dude who does 49ers content, but listen, we are absolutely worse right now. So whatever I know y'all struggled. I believe lost to the Falcons, which they're not, Falcons aren't a good team, but they are a competitive kind of, frisky team. But yeah, we're worse right now. So real quick, I'm going to just do a quick hey to the folks in the chat. Don't have time probably to answer all your questions to get to it. Want to say hey to GW. Wow. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Oh man. Arjun, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Silver Wolf, thanks for dropping in here. Agent 47, thanks for being here. Nick L, thank you for being here. Classy Nasty, thanks for hanging out with us. There's gonna be a lot of those calls for Firecliff. Robert Moore checking in. Be prepared. It's gonna be all torches pitchforks for this stream for sure. Yep, sure is. AZ Cardinals, Firecliff. The Cardinals, you're gonna fire. Oh, that's not them. Never mind. Okay. Anyway, yeah, Firecliff and Steve Keim. A lot of people gonna be calling for that. Obviously, not watching the game until Cliff started. Ooh, David's bringing the protest. Okay, we got Albert Morales. Thanks for being here. Marcus Lingoni, thank you for being here. That boy Odie, thank you for being here. I am Bear. Let's see, we got Lagoon Road. Thanks for being here. CB, thanks for being here. Nick, and I think there might be a few more goal line audibles. Thanks for hanging out with us. Please go get Sean Payton. Hearing a lot of calls for that. RM, Cam Thomas, Majai Sanders, though. Listen, we'll talk about them a little bit later. Roy Too Trappy, thanks for being here. I just want to join in the stream of crying. I feel that, man. Sam, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. We got Marcos that brought up Soul Pancakes. Thanks for being here, hanging out with us. Ryan B. Trying. Thanks for hanging out. I'll get to some of the more of those in a bit. All right. So let's try. There's a lot to criticize. Let's actually start with the positive stuff first, because normally I like to end on the positive, but let's get the good stuff out of the way because there's more bad to talk about. So we're gonna start with our studs and duds. Evan, who is your first stud of this game?
I'm gonna go with our leading tackler, Zaven Collins. 9 total tackles today. 5 of them were solo, 2 sacks. 2 of those were tackles for loss and a pass defense, a couple QB hits as well too. He looked fast out there. He looked like he's more in control. I did see 1 or 2 times in coverage that he got beat a little bit. It looked like if he would have just moved a half second earlier, he could have been there. But I mean, it's only his second year. But considering how much grief he's gotten with the situation in Scottsdale, nobody knew what was going on with him in the offseason, to looking not even like an NFL player in week 1. I'd say Zaven Collins has come a long way. And is that a testament to Zaven Collins or a testament to Vance Joseph?
Yeah. I think the whole deal with Vance Joseph, people are frustrated. He doesn't play people till he feels like they're ready, and sometimes that takes longer than we like. But Zaven's played well this season, and this was a really good game. So I think you're right on. He was on my list as well, right? Jackie, who did you have for your first stud?
Well, the start of the game was looking pretty solid, so I got to say, he was kind of forced into this running back one role, and he looked pretty good. He had some great runs, and he's also a great blocker. He got a couple passes, so he's established, and once Connor comes back, they'll establish a nice tandem. And then I think, I'm not missing Chase Edmonds anymore.
Yeah, he looked good early running and catching the ball. I think they moved away from him. I mean, he only had 15 carries for 37 yards. But he had a couple of nice catches, 3 for 28 yards. But then they just kind of, based on the game script, moved away from him. But I mean, I thought he looked good. They just didn't stick with the run. In fact, like that first opening drive, they ran a lot and it looked good. And
Ingram as well, dude. Ingram as well.
For sure. Absolutely. And then, of course, things kind of went sideways. I'm going to go with the Cardinals cornerback / defensive backs. The Cardinals defense overall was good. The run defense struggled, but that pass defense was really good. The Cardinals defense gave up no passing touchdowns, and there was no receiver who had more than 45 yards catching the ball. DK Metcalf had 2 for 34, no touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, 2 for 17, no touchdowns. D. Eskridge, 3 for 39 with no touchdowns. People thought Marco Wilson was going to get torched. He has struggled this year, but these cornerbacks have held up pretty well all year. And that pass defense did a really good job. I mean, let's not forget, I mean, for as bad as this offense is, and we will talk about it because of how bad the Seattle defense was, that Seattle offense was ranked 8th, I think, in the NFL. And they were a highly ranked offense. And this defense held them to 19 points, most of that with the running game, right? So I say those cornerbacks, defensive backs had a really, really good game. Anyone want to comment on that or any thoughts on that?
No, you're completely right. They've been great. Go ahead, Jackie.
No, I was just going to say, to kind of piggyback off that, Buda Baker has been very consistent. He's been all over the place, flying all over the field. And, it's a name that everybody knows, oh, it's Buda Baker. He's great, but he's kind of had a quiet year. But at the same time, he's also been our most consistent player on defense.
Yeah, for sure. Evan, do you have a second stud? Can you find one in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. Marcus Golden, somebody we've all said needs to step up, needs to do things. And Marcus Golden was absolutely everywhere today. 8 tackles, 4 of them solo, a sack, 2 tackles for losses, a QB hit. I thought he had a pass deflection, but maybe that was somebody else. I swear I thought he had one. but he was everywhere. He was flying around. He finally got to the quarterback, got to the quarterback 2 or 3 times, couldn't quite get there, or somebody got him down right before him, or else he would have had one. So it was great to see outside linebackers be able to go and get some sacks and do what they were able to do against a pretty effective and efficient Geno Smith.
Yeah, I love Marcus Golden, but he has not performed well this year. It was nice to see him come out and have that game, right? I'm actually going to jump in with my second set because it builds off of what you're talking about. It's also the pass rush, but I'm going to go with the rookie pass rushers. Cameron Thomas, Myjai Sanders, each with their first NFL regular season sack, their first career sack. I know fans have been kind of frustrated about the lack of playing time for them. With rookies, sometimes it just takes, they're still learning the system. I'm not bothered by the fact that they didn't play much early. They were still learning it, but as long as we see this trend this way, that they're playing more, then I'm fine with it, right? I trust that maybe it was just a matter they needed to get up to speed on the, on the playbook. It takes time for that. That's fine. I can live with that. If 6 games in, these rookies are starting to contribute and they contribute for the rest of the season, that's 2 really good 3rd round picks, in my opinion. So it's early. They have to keep doing that, but it was nice to see them out there. They looked good. So that to me is a stud going with the pass rush. And the pass rush as a whole actually was pretty good this game. Jackie.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, the pass rush, yeah, the rookies, Cam Thomas, we saw him, we saw Myjai Sanders, and he's fast, man. It's nice that we're finally incorporating these rookies, get some young guys in with this pass rush. They get to the quarterback, they get after it. Who else had JJ Watt made some plays.
Chris Banjo. How about
Chris Banjo? There you go.
Our offensive juggernaut, right? Chris Banjo with the touchdown.
That is our backup safety.
Right. Solid special teams player, though. Yeah. Obviously
bringing him back, cutting him, bringing him back.
Right. So, okay. I think that play, the Chris Banjo, I think is a good way to segue to duds, because he was a stud, but the fact that our only touchdown, right, was put up by a special teams play on a backup safety illustrates how bad this game was. So, Jackie, why don't you get us started with your first dud?
Sean Harlow, man, he was getting bullied at the line, and he tackled Eno essentially one play. Anytime you have to see Sean Harlow, it's going to be a bad day.
He was good last week, but he got bullied this week, right? And he was bad earlier in the season. That was rough, right? In fact, kind of the offensive line in general, really, especially in the insides, Kyler was under pressure all day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was. How many of those 4th downs and 3rd downs were ended with a sack, right? I mean, that was bad. Evan, what's your first dud?
We talked beforehand who got what between the two, and I honestly forget who I had. So you go first, please. You go first.
Okay.
You go first.
Well, I have the quarterback.
Yep. Okay.
People who watch my videos and follow know that I'm a believer in Kyler in general. I believe in the talent. I'm a defender of Kyler. But this was a really bad game for Kyler. Yes, he ran, aside from the fumble, which is really bad, he ran the ball well. It was nice to see them run with him more because they are able to convert some offense when things are struggling with that. But it wasn't nearly enough to compensate for everything else that was going wrong, including a lot of bad throws from him. He only had 1 interception, could have had more, but there were a lot of throws that were either underthrown or overthrown, bad throws that could have kept the drive going. And a lot of them were throws that Kyler normally would make. I mean, he's usually really accurate, especially with the deep ball. And he was overthrowing Hollywood. He had an overthrow and an underthrown Hollywood Brown, right? Both that would have been nice plays. A couple other overthrows and underthrows. His throws were off, a lot. And it was a really bad game by Kyler.
It was an awful game by Kyler. The reads weren't there. You saw guys being left open. The throws weren't there. There was one to Rondale Moore that was, I think, one of the 4th down throws where he was low on. His accuracy wasn't there. It was an awful game by Kyler Murray. When he had open space to run, he didn't do it. And then he would try to run himself into traffic, it seemed like. Kyler Murray had an awful, awful game. But if I could segue into it with my dud, and then I want to hear from Jackie real quick. I just want another voice in Kyler Murray's head other than Cliff Kingsbury, because Cliff Kingsbury is my dud, and we can get into a lot of the decisions and whatnot, but I feel like right now with the play and the regression that we're seeing from Kyler Murray, you have to loop in Cliff Kingsbury into that too. What do you think, Jackie?
Absolutely. I mean, week after week, we're seeing a trend of just these bad play calls and bad game management. It's super frustrating. And then, we were doing very good all game. We didn't see these behind the line of scrimmage passes, and then boom, you just have to throw one in there, kill the drive, lose yards. Can't have it.
This is why our team is bad right here, is the Kyler Murray regression through 6 games and Cliff Kingsbury's questionable at best play calling and decision making, right? If he just goes with what the book says in this game and we do hit the extra point, obviously this is a 19-19 game like we brought up earlier. This is why we are bad right here, is those two individuals right there. We gave a lot of flack about the defense beginning of this year. Vance Joseph deserves his kudos. The whole defense, top to bottom, even the run defense to a point, deserves a little bit of kudos from where they've become. Everything on offense, outside of a couple good games by Hollywood, outside of the effort that you see with every play with Zach Ertz, except it feels like anytime he gets touched a little bit, he is falling down now. Outside of that and some Greg Dortch here or there, this has been the worst Cardinals offense, well, obviously since 2018. But in Kyler's regime, this has been the worst offense.
Yeah. And I think to your point on Cliff, like, I don't think that there weren't as many of those, and don't you like to call him cute college coach Cliff or whatever? There weren't as many of those trying to be too cute calls. There were a few, right? There weren't as many of those, but this is something I've been talking about in my streams last week or two. I think there is kind of a more overarching issue with the play calling that is something has more to do with the overall scheme. And what I mean by that is this, and there's been some shifts in defense. We've talked about this. Teams are playing more 2 high safeties, and they're doing less in terms of blitzing, bringing more 4-man rushes. And, those two high shells, as they call them, make it hard to hit those deep passes down the seams that Kyler likes to do. What you have to do, schematically to kind of get that, to knock them out of those 2 highs, you have to run up the middle, because those two safeties make it harder to cover the middle of the field in terms of the run game. So if teams are playing like a 2 high safety, you run up the middle and you start to get yards on them. And eventually they have to bring one of those safeties down, and then you can kind of expose that. Right. And I was hoping that they were going to be doing that this game, because they ran it a lot more early on and it actually worked. Right. But then I don't know, they moved away from that. They did run a lot with Kyler, but in general, listen, I'm not an expert in X's and O's, but it just feels like there have been shifts in terms of how defense is being played in the league this year. And with what we're seeing in the results, it feels like Cliff has not adjusted to those as well as other coaches have. And listen, a lot of teams are struggling offensively. Like, it's not just the Cardinals. Going into this game, they were in the middle of the pack offensively, as bad as they've been. They're probably a little worse now, but bottom line is, he's offensive-minded coach, and somehow or other, in ways that are above my pay grade, he has not adjusted to whatever the defenses are doing this year in the NFL, and that's been a problem, right? So to your point, Evan, there's something going on with Cliff's play calling that is concerning. But at the same time, if Kyler makes a lot of those throws that he missed, maybe this offense looked a little better, right? So that's the tough part with that, and it's hard to know with that. I forget who we're at, but does anyone have another dud?
We're at Jackie, yeah.
Okay, thank you for keeping me on task there.
Well, here is another clear and obvious one. Matt Amendola. Why is he still on the team? Did we cut him before he got on the plane? Because we should. Why did we double down on a kicker that can't kick past 35 yards? This you could our offense was terrible, struggled, but you can also chalk it up to if we had a kicker, we might have won. There's an idea, and it's like at this point, I don't know what the status of Matt Prater is, but I think it's worth giving Rodrigo Blankenship a call because for sure Matt Amendola ain't it.
If Prater is back, then that's I don't know that you call anyone necessary at this point, but if Prater's going to be out another week, yeah. I mean, going into this, it's like, okay, he missed those longer field goals, and what I had heard, the rationale that as I understood it from Keim was that Amendola was more accurate, at least in the shorter kicks, but the long kicks, whatever. But he missed an extra point, right? So clearly that so that ain't it, as the kids say, right? So if Prater's out again, they need to have someone else kicking for them next or Thursday, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a short week, so I don't know if Prater's gonna come back. But I was looking at Blankenship's percentage; he's at an 83. Why not?
Yeah,
work him out because we're having to go for it on fourth down and turnover on downs because this guy can't kick. Why are we? Yeah. Why did we bring him back?
Yeah, I mean, yep. I hear you. Want to say hey to some of the folks that are in here. We got Jason. Hey, Joe, it's funny. What's up? It's a really bad loss, but thanks for being here, Jason. Appreciate you. We got Aiden. Let's just have Eno kick it, right? Hey, listen, couldn't be worse than what's happened, right? Croy, thanks for being here. Marco Wilson played a good game. At least he did, right? The whole defensive back, all the defensive backs did, right? Zach, kicker issues are a smaller issue when the offense just being bad. Listen, absolutely. The offense overall is not good right now. Kicker is an issue. Kicker last week, we would have at least had a chance to win with that kicker. Would have put it into would have been a tie. But this game, a kicker wasn't going to be the difference. It wasn't enough, right? We got Error Noobs. Thanks for being here. Hard to watch these games now. I hear that. Omar Lopez, thanks for being here. Cole Larkin, thanks for being here. RM, thanks for being here. We got Brian in the house. Thanks for being here. If I miss anyone, again, I apologize. All right. Did we have any other duds to hit before we get into about
Well, no, I just want to talk about Kyler Murray in all honesty.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just open it up general observations, anything you want to talk about. So why don't you jump in there, Evan?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kyler Murray is on pace to have the second most sacks this year in his career, outside of the 48 his rookie season. He's on pace to have the second lowest completion percentage, other than his rookie year. Quarterback rating, he's on pace to have the worst quarterback rating in his career. He's at 84.3 right now. Last year, he was at 100.6. We're talking 16, 17 point differential in his quarterback rating. And his overall rating for that matter. So what the hell? This is like the first full off season in 2 years where we've had a normal off season. We brought in his best friend. He got his bank. Keim and Cliff, they all got their money. So there's no worries about anything that happened. Everything's for the future. You bring back Max Williams and he turns out to be a dud. You bring back James Conner. You have all these weapons around him now. Trey McBride, Zach Ertz, all this stuff. And he comes out and regresses. This is not all on DeAndre Hopkins. Mm-hmm. This has been an awful, awful showing by Kyler. All the stats that I just laid out, he's on pace to be worse. And he's on pace to only get 22 touchdowns, which would be second worst in his career as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's having a bad season. I mean, he absolutely. It's weird, though, because like the interceptions aren't worse than they've been in the past. The touchdowns aren't as good, right? He's average. I don't know the exact averages, but he seems to be what's got 3 interceptions. That's not outside of what's kind of normal range for him through this many games. The touchdowns are low. The yards, I think, are actually up a little bit. But overall, he's just missing some of those throws. But I still feel like it comes back to something structurally with the offense, because the offense isn't, they're not, because his average depth of target is down, right? He's not taking as many shots deep. Again, some of that might be that change in defense scheme, or kind of philosophy we talked about across the league, but the offense isn't doing what it needs, to get them out of those two ice shells, if that's what it is, right? And I'm sure there's more to it than that. So, yeah, Jackie, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And real quick, and Jackie, you can respond to this. Vincent Morata just put out a really fun tweet. It's the first time Kyler Murray has run for 10 or more times in a game, and we lost. It's also now the second time, 0-2 in these games, where Kyler Murray has rushed for over 100 yards, and we're 0-2 in those games. Take that for what you will, Jackie.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my observations, is that Kyler's got to be better as a passer. He's got to make better decisions. I don't know if he's having trouble reading these defenses, or the plays are taking too long to develop. And I know we have offensive line issues, but I don't like having to run him like that. I know that's his best skill, and I don't like that for him for that to be his best skill. I would like for him to step up and be a true quarterback and pass the ball. Because Lamar Jackson gets a lot of flack for being, quote unquote, like a running back that plays quarterback. But right now, I feel like that's kind of what Kyler Murray is right now. I know, he's young and athletic and he's still got time, but something's got to give with that. He wasn't on target today at all.
Yeah. And, and this is another thing, like schematically, and this is a good point Wolf brings up here. Like, with a quarterback like Kyler, you want to see more bootlegs and rollouts, like especially if your offensive line, right? If you've got injuries on the interior offensive line and you're getting pressure, like do these kinds of plays, like the Browns built an entire offense around Baker Mayfield with a bunch of bootlegs and rollouts and made him an efficient quarterback. And Kyler's a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield, as much as some people might not agree with that in the moment. But like, you do that puts strain on the defense, and also, does some things in terms of allowing the quarterback to work with half of a field, and it just makes things a little easier on the quarterback. Like, I'd like to see a lot more of that, but yeah, as we've been saying, this was terrible. Put up 3 points on offense against a 31st ranked defense. I think they were arguably the worst defense in the NFL going in this game. They gave up the most yards. They were 32nd in yards allowed, Seattle. And this offense couldn't do anything on that. Just like, it's inexcusable when you're going against the worst defense and you can't do anything. And that's on Kyler, but it's also on the play calling. Sorry, yeah, rants.
Yeah, I got some post game stuff. You want to hear what old Cliffy had to say tonight?
Oh, well, you gotta hand it to them, right? Just everyone, like the bingo card, right? If you have, let's,
we gotta be better.
Let's do the bingo card. So, and everyone on your card, mark if you had these things.
Okay. First one. The standard is the standard. We have to play at a high level. That's bingo card number one. Okay. Next one. The Seahawks, or the defense. They are playing at a high level about the defense, he added. They're growing together, and it's impressive to watch. All right. Okay. Here's the next one. You've got to give them credit. The Seahawks defense added they didn't have the right calls and just didn't execute as an offense. Overall, we were just inconsistent on offense, and we have not been good. That's how we've been playing. Getting 3 points on the first possession and nothing since then. And here's a fun little X factor, being a one that none of us had. All of us are looking in the mirror to try to fix what is wrong. And about injuries, he has not heard regarding injuries to Justin Pugh and Hollywood Brown as of right now. But one more. Here's the one that really gets me, and this is from Zaven Collins. I think we're all just pissed regarding the mood in the locker room. Added, we got to change. Something is up. I don't know what it is.
With offense, because defense is actually stepping up.
Did we not have a got to give them
He's on fire.
Did we have a not got to give them credit and I have to call better plays? Because if we have those two, then I know I've got a bingo.
I don't see better plays. I don't see that one.
So I didn't get the bingo.
There is the inconsistent one. We've got to be better. We're just inconsistent.
Ah, man. Yeah. So Yeah, it's not good. Okay, I will say this. How come nobody says anything about Cliff study habits? I'll tell you. No, Cliff, listen, for all the things you want to say about Cliff, Cliff actually puts in a lot of time and studies a lot of film. Something's not working, but the dude's, so that's why you don't see any. Now, you know, there's questions about the calls he plays at the time he calls, but the reason no one's questioning that is because the dude puts in a lot of work. But there's a problem, no doubt. All right, so Jackie, observation.
Well, you know, we started out okay. We've scored some points in the first half. Field goal, you know, ugly red zone showing, but it looked promising. It's just, why did we abandon the run game? They have the worst run defense. Why did we go away from that?
Yeah, I mean, they were running the ball really nicely that first drive, moving the ball down. They got to they got to first and goal. Then Eno ran it, got about 4 or 5 yards, set up a second goal from a couple yards out, and then they tried to run it to the sideline with Kyler. I wish they would have given Eno another run up the middle on that second down to see if he could punch it in. I know the defense would have been expecting that, but I still give him that chance. He was running hard, but they put up the field goal. But still, they were running it well. But they went away from that, right? Yeah, they were down, but yeah, I mean, that was working for them. Now they did continue to run with Kyler throughout the game, and again, aside from that fumble, which was a gut punch, he was running it well. So, yeah. Other thoughts, Evan?
I completely agree. And Kyler Murray's fumble was very, very costly, down 12-3 when it just got batted out of his hand because he just, holds it there. Even during the play, my wife was watching, and she was like, why is he just holding it like that? It's going to be, oh, there it goes. So that's awareness on Kyler Murray again. But why did we stop? Why did we abandon the run? Now, I remember it was the drive you were talking about. It was 2nd and 3, and I just looked it up. We gave it to Ingram, and then he lost 3 yards. So it went to 3rd and 6, and they tried a little short pass to AJ Green after that. And then after that, I keep looking at the next ones. Benjamin right guard for 3 yards, 2nd and 7 the very next time. Then it's -3 yards. Then it's 3rd and 10, Kyler Murray sacked. And on the next possession, 4 plays, Kyler Murray deep pass incomplete. Kyler Murray up the middle for no gain. Kyler Murray pass short right. Luckily, there was a hold on that play, but then Kyler Murray sacked, and then we punt again. So you just look through everything and why did we get away from it? But it stopped working all of a sudden. Maybe that's when Justin Pugh went out. I'm kind of having a hard time remembering when he went out. If it was the second quarter, was it the first quarter?
Justin Pugh exited at the end of the first quarter.
End of the first quarter,
and I'm last play of the first quarter.
Yep, there you go. And I'm looking at second quarter drives right here. So there you go. Yeah. Lines, inconsistent offensive lines. It's good to see we were proactive about lines and D-line play this year, right? We were very proactive on that front.
The D-line has played well, though. It's, I mean, we didn't bring in a lot of guys, but guys are developing, right? We brought in guys on the offensive line depth, and we've needed every bit of that depth and then some. But the play hasn't been good.
When's Cody Ford going to be healthy? Does anybody have any idea?
I don't know. I don't. They can bring him back, but it sounded like he was still at least a couple weeks away. Last thing I heard, and that was just a very brief mention. So I don't know. I don't expect it's anytime. I don't think it's in the next week or two. If it is, I mean, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but you think we'd be hearing more about him progressing if there were, but I haven't heard anything about him. So if anyone's heard anything, let us know in the comments, but I haven't heard anything. So yeah, it's rough, right?
Here's I got a fun one if you guys want to change it up just a little bit.
Okay.
How about the Arizona DBs holding guys like Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith, and why am I blanking? And DK Metcalf, and you can add Tyler Lockett in there. How about them just blanketing these top tier elite receivers? AJ Brown had 3 for 32. Devontae Adams had 2 for 12. Remember, one of them was just that little pick touchdown throw right there. Cooper Kupp, who kills us. Only 4 for 44. Granted, he had a 20-yard run in there as well too. And I just lost the stats that I just had up for this game, so I can't tell you what DK had.
DK
2 for 34.
Yes, yeah.
And 2 for 17 for Lockett. So
yeah.
In a passing league, we're doing very well in the most statistical important category, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah. I mean, like our cornerbacks individually, Byron Murphy Jr.'s played solid. Marco's struggled individually, but the defense as a whole has figured out, has kind of situated things in such a way that his getting burnt from time to time hasn't caused big chunks or hasn't, led to big drives. They've somehow managed to do a really good job overall as a secondary unit, right? Against really good receivers. And that, I think that's a credit to the players. It's a credit to Vance Joseph, who has done probably the best coaching job on this team this year. They struggled a little bit out of the gate, but yeah. So, they're doing a really good job, right? Want to say hey to, we got Payo Time. Hey, everyone. Rams, YouTuber, really good dude. Thanks for popping in here. And yeah, Cole is commenting in here. Man, nobody blame the QB who played terrible. What WTF up with this fan base? Maybe you just got in here late, Cole, but we were laying into Kyler having a bad game. So we're talking about other things.
Bad season.
Yeah. Listen, we're talking about other parts of the game because it's not just Kyler, but Kyler had a really bad game. So maybe you should go back and watch from the beginning. We're laying into Kyler today as well, but other parts as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the cornerbacks have done a good job. Absolutely. I want to throw something out there, something people have been talking about. Everyone, myself included, has been saying, okay, if this team can get to 3-3, when Hopkins comes back, with Hopkins and Hollywood Brown, I feel like this offense is going to be better. And I really believe that could have happened if Hollywood was healthy still. There's still that possibility, but man, at this point, especially, we don't know how long Hollywood's going to be out for. Someone was saying in the chat they think 4 to 8 weeks, because if it's a high ankle sprain, that's usually what that is. We'll see. But I'll tell you, I mean, Hopkins is a great receiver, but with what we're seeing in this offense, Hopkins isn't going to fix this, especially with Hollywood missing time. If we had both of them healthy, maybe we could see this offense start to do something. But man, we were all waiting for Hopkins and what that was going to be. And I think we're going to be talking about that pregame. Evan, if you want to mention that too on your channel, we can talk about that later. But do kind of just shout that out a little bit later when we get out of here. But man, Hopkins isn't going to fix this by himself. I know some people. I'm not the first to say that. I know this. I'm not like saying something others haven't said. But yeah, Jackie, thoughts on what's going on and with Hopkins and moving forward?
Yeah, no, I don't think Hopkins is going to fix this. Like, we keep crying, like, oh, what's D Hopkins back? But no, especially if you look at his route tree, he's playing in a phone booth, and you got to get more creative with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, man. It's sad to say, but like when he was with the Texans, that was his best, his best career. He had a better career with the Texans than he did here. Like, yeah, he's made some great plays, but we're not using him to his full potential.
X-rays were negative on Marquise Hollywood Brown. He did have a boot on his left foot, said X-rays were negative, but he was walking with a noticeable limp. Justin Pugh had a large brace on his right leg, said he won't know the situation until he gets an MRI.
All right. Yeah.
So probably don't expect Brown this next game. Ha.
Yeah, that's probably fair, man. Whew. Yeah. To me, this is clearly the low point of the season. A season where we got blown out by the Chiefs, but that was week 1. Chiefs are a good team. Week 1 was weird, but here we are, a game where we should have been able to put up a lot of points on the worst defense in the NFL. yes, our offense is looking good. There's some things to love on our defense is looking good. There's some things to really love on the defensive side, but this offense could not put up points on the worst defense in the NFL. Our Hollywood Brown, who's been our best receiver, looks like he's going to miss at least a week, probably, maybe more, hopefully not. Kyler has not played well. The defense is just stagnant. And even like, if nothing else, we were able to hang our hat on, hey, at halftime, they make adjustments and the offense comes out and does something. The offense put up fewer points, right? I think in the second half than they did in the first half. And they only put up 3 in the first half, right? Like, so like they didn't make those second half adjustments that they've been making in the past. It's the low point of the season, right? I mean, I think that's pretty. I mean, can you think of a lower point this season, either of you?
Oh, absolutely not.
Well, getting blown out by the Chiefs kind of sucked, but this is, like I said, this is a game you absolutely, unexcusably should have won. You had the opportunity to take control and be on top of the West, and you failed. Mm-hmm. And I feel like every time that we come into that situation, we always fail. What gives?
Don't know. I mean, I think, listen, we're hearing a lot of calls, and I hear it, well, the Hard Knocks curse, right? Maybe that's what it is. People saying fire Cliff, people want to fire Cliff, fire Keim. I've always been kind of a be patient, kind of let's wait, kind of see, let's not be too quick to bail kind of a person. And I still think, like, I'm not for firing anyone mid-season. I think you wait till the end of the season, see where things. I just don't think there's anything you gain from doing that. But man, if this offense doesn't pick up, and it's the end of the season, this team is still averaging like 12, 15 points a game. I'm not going to argue with anyone who says we should fire the coach at the end of the season. I mean, the way it's looked. Real quick, I want to do a shout out to Authentic, a great content creator who has a channel, Authentic the Beard. Appreciate you coming in here. He's a really good dude. Tough L for us today. Authentic is a Giants fan. You guys have a hell of a coach there, and so congratulations on the season y'all are having. Definitely performing better than I thought they would. So, but thanks for dropping in. So yeah, I mean, listen. I've in the past said you need two consecutive losing seasons before I think you should fire a coach. But I don't know, man. If this offense doesn't get on track.
If you can't be good at what you're supposed to be good at, what good are you?
I mean, I get that argument. I do think there's something to be said for, in general, a coach can have an off season and you give them 2 consecutive losing seasons before you pull the plug. But if the offense stays this bad, I would suspend that. Not that it's up to me.
You're going to pull your hair out, aren't you?
No, I'm going to say this. Here's
Sorry,
what I would say. Normally, I hold to that have 2 consecutive losing seasons. But if this offense does not look better by the end of the season and they come out of here with 6 wins or whatever, I'm not going to argue with anyone who says fire Cliff. Like that's kind of what I'm saying. Like I'm not gonna say no. Let's wait another season, even though I generally think you should give it 2 consecutive losing seasons. Like because it's like if the offense were looking competent and it was just the defense was bad and you had a losing season, I'd say no. Let's get another year to kind of get this fixed. But if this offense keeps doing what it's doing, I'm not going to argue with anyone at the end of the season on that one. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I'm not opposed to Sean Payton. Or Eric Bieniemy.
I think Eric Bieniemy. I don't know. I hear that they're just players don't get along. I've heard enough stuff that I'm not sure about that.
Well, that makes sense. Sure.
But Sean Payton, heck of a coach, has coached with a short quarterback before, right?
That's a fair point.
Yeah. So I would not hate that at all. So, but
I will set my Sean Payton hate aside for that. I dislike Sean Payton because of Deflategate.
Or Bountygate.
The Bountygate, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
but I'll set that aside at this point. And it's funny because I said last year before the season started because everybody was still kind of down on Cliff even going into last season. I said, I can see a situation where if we go to the playoffs and get embarrassed, I can see that we fire Cliff.
Yeah.
What happens? We go to the playoffs, we get embarrassed, we extend him.
Contract extension. I've had ever since those, was it his second year, Kyler's second year too, we had 2 wins at the end of the season to get into the playoffs. And we blew it at home against the Niners when the Niners weren't good. And then we completely blew it on the road against who was the backup quarterback for the Rams that year.
Wolford.
Oh my gosh.
The Rams legend Wolford, right?
Exactly. After those 2 games, I was done, you guys. Like, he was not you do not lose a locker room to that magnitude in that situation in your second year. This is when you're supposed to be building. You're supposed to be getting better. Win 1 game out of the last 2, and one of them is at home, and you go to the playoffs. And to be that lackluster, I was amazed that anybody was on the Cliff train after that. I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, last year we start out 7-0, and everybody's on his nuts. And now look at it this year. Look at what happened. His last 15, 16 games are probably, I'm going to spitball, 5-13 or something, or 5 and whatever, however the math adds up. He's a dog water coach, you guys. He is not a leader of men. He's getting shown up by the press during his own press conference, being like, you guys really want to use those 5'6" receivers to block? And he's like, what? Don't block? And he's like, well, I mean, like, he's 5'6". Shouldn't you have him doing other things? And Cliff is like, oh, yeah, you're right. Well, we try to do this and we try to do that. Like, the press is starting to ask him these questions where he's getting defensive. He is not a leader of men. He is not a leader of a good football team. You want him to be a quarterback's coach? Talk me into it. Absolutely. Offensive coordinator, maybe at Rice.
Game manager.
Maybe at UTEP. Yeah, exactly. He is not good. He is not good. And this is 100% on Keim. Who hired him? Who was the hire right before him? Steve Wilkes, who almost got a win in Los Angeles today. I was really hoping for the Panthers to win. Look at those 2 head coaches in a row. The last 5 years have been awful. We can argue about draft picks with Keim all we want, but he picked the person to lead this football team. And we are down this path to the point where Kyler Murray is regressing, and we shouldn't have paid him, according to some people. This is just the realist, whatever I'm trying to say. This is the truth of where we're at, you guys.
I real quick just want to say thanks to Tommy Huxley. What's up, Tommy? Tommy is a 49ers fan. What's good, Santa Claus? Because I look like Santa Claus, apparently. Tough loss. It was a tough loss. Absolutely. I know you all had a tough loss too. But thank you for the super chat as always. But yeah, I mean, listen, I know people, there are people in here who are going to disagree with me and on what I'm about to say, and that's okay. I still think you had to pay Kyler. You either had to pay him or move on from him. When you draft a quarterback in the first round, year 3, you either have to extend them or you let them go. I believe in the talent. He's having a bad year. He's making bad plays, but you have a quarterback with the talent. But the coach isn't doing him any favors right now. I agree with you on that, right? So yeah, I mean, listen, I've been kind of a Kyler apologist for a while, but I'm much more moving in the direction of we need to see maybe a different offensive system here. That's kind of where, but I'm still stick. I hear, move on, trade him. I'm ride or die with Kyler right now. If I go down with that ship, I'll go down with that ship. I've seen the arm talent. I know his game isn't perfect, but I'm gonna stick with him. But I am starting to wonder if you need a more conventional offense for him. It's still gonna it can't be a completely conventional with his play style, but something maybe more like a West Coast offense, something that does some things to kind of make things a little bit, I don't know, more to cater to the NFL. I know we've been going about almost 15 minutes. Any other thoughts either if you want to throw in there? I know we're kind of just spitballing and kind of going from point to point.
It's
Any other
therapy
thoughts?
session now.
It really is, and that's we need that, right?
Mhm.
So this is kind of what it is. It's a place to vent, right? Tommy, I know he's an Niners fan, maybe, but he's got to run with Kyler. Maybe he's just wanting us to because he's a Niners fan. But yeah. Aiden, I'm a Kyler bandwagon. If he were to get traded to the Browns, for example, I would buy his jersey. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, listen, but listen, it's a bad year for him. Hey, but the defense, Myjai Sanders, Jordan P. loves Myjai. Man, he looked good a couple of those plays. Listen, going into this week, a lot of people were with Carolina, kind of there's a lot of rumors of the trade, there being a fire sale there, and hearing a lot of people saying, trade for Brian Burns to get us a pass rush. And I've kind of been on record as saying, I know our outside linebackers have struggled, but I don't want to go trade for a guy that you're going to have to pay a lot of money as a pass rusher. I want to let those young guys develop. Let's see them on the field. And both of them, Thomas and Sanders, gave us something, to feel hopeful about. And I think one or both of those guys are going to develop nicely, and we're going to be. I think we're going to be fine in terms of pass rushers, but there's some other areas to address. All right. Question: expectations for Hard Knocks. Jackie, Evan, what?
Y'all, I might not watch it. If this season keeps going bad, what's the point of watching it?
Yeah,
exactly. Okay. I don't see anything worth watching there if this is what we have to recap in Hard Knocks. It might even make my hatred for Cliff, skyrocket just seeing how he operates behind the scenes. So who knows?
That's true.
I'm gonna watch it because I'm a glutton for punishment. I mean, I'll watch it, but it's not gonna be a fun experience the way things are going, right? So whatever we're gonna get to see behind the scenes on whatever it is. If it's a miraculous turnaround, we're gonna see that. If it's a tire fire, we're gonna get to see that, right? So,
Joe, in the overall landscape of Valley sports, it's actually kind of a tough time right now when you see, what the Padres are doing, taking down the evil empire was great last night. Don't get me wrong, but we can talk about how bad the D-backs have been for a while. The Cardinals supposed to be a little bit better, supposed to at least be a 3-3 team without Hop, and now we're questioning Kyler, and it's just the worst part of the season for the Cardinals. There's a lot of questions about the Suns and if they can rise up and be as good, or are we going to get abused on Wednesday to Luka and the Mavericks again? I don't even know if I could take that. You look at the Arizona State and Arizona football teams. Goodness. Our hope this year might be the Arizona State and Arizona college basketball teams. Those might be our hopes this year. Just overall, it's not looking great. The Coyotes are now 0-2. It was fun seeing Arizona State hockey open up their new arena, having that little vibe that's going on in there. But overall, this is just putting us in a bad place. I'm talking about just the overall chi of Arizona.
It needs to be centered.
Dude,
and our chi is not
centered. This is not looking good right now, just in the overall scope of everything. So yeah, this is totally turned into a therapy session.
100%. I don't know if y'all seen this, but I have this thumbnail that I've done for live streams before. The group therapy session. Usually, when a player gets injured or something goes bad, maybe sometimes I'll do a live stream and use that. Man, but this is a trauma therapy session because this is not a things will there. I don't feel I'm one of the more optimistic folks in terms of this team you're going to find. But I don't feel I've lost a lot of my optimism about this team. They really needed to show me something this game, and they didn't offensively. The only thing I'm optimistic about right now with this team is that our rookies look like, especially on defense, they're starting to develop. And not even just rookies, players like Zach Allen are finally starting. Rashard Lawrence, I know he's been banged up, but he made some nice plays. We're seeing some of those draft picks over the last couple of years and the rookies this year starting to develop, especially on the defensive side. Byron Murphy looking good. So that's all I'm optimistic about is the development of players is looking better. But aside from that, especially
development of defensive players,
mostly defense. Yeah. But aside from that, right, you could say an Eno too, right? But aside from that, I don't have a lot of optimism right now. It's rough. Yeah.
Last stat to throw your way, Jackie, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Since the Cardinals started 7-0, they are now 6-10. If 10-7, if that record makes a wild card team for the playoffs, we need to finish 8-3. We
Oh
need to
my
finish
God.
8-3, Jackie. Think about that. To go 10-7 to realistically get in the playoffs. What are your thoughts on that?
It's gonna take a miracle. And if you had told me this stat beginning of the year, which it wouldn't be the stat, but just in the beginning of the year to make the playoffs, especially after game one, you'd think this defense is gonna, this defense is not it. But now, being at where we're at now, and it's the offense, like I have no hope anymore, sadly. And I'm as big as a homer as they come, but
I mean, you have a Phoenix Cardinals shirt on, for Christ's sake. Like, yeah, you're one of the bigger homers, and you're even saying it. I mean, we have 4 games left in the division. We can't go 2-2 in those games either. We would have to go 3-1, in my opinion.
And play lights out, which I don't see happening.
Which the defense could do.
Yeah.
Which the defense can do, but the offense, I don't know.
Okay.
Now, we get D-Hop back, but we lose Marquise Brown. It's a mess.
Well, okay. All that needs to happen, Joe and Jackie, we just need to win on Thursday Night Football, right? In 4 days. Like, you're never as low as you seem, never as high as you seem, right? So when you lose, you're never going to win again. When you win, it feels like you're never going to lose again. You're on top of the world. So can we beat the Saints? They've got Chris Olave probably out, Jarvis Landry. They have all these guys out, but they go out. They get a tough win today. Alvin Kamara, I think, goes over 100 yards. Andy Dalton actually looks serviceable, which we kind of have owned Andy Dalton for what it's worth. Keep that for what you will. The defense, actually, I just had the stats up. I'll bring that up. Can we beat the Saints on Thursday Night Football? That's where we're trending to right now. And that's what this team needs to focus on. Can we do it, you guys?
On paper, yes. Execution, we'll see.
Can we? Yes. Will we? I don't feel great about it right now.
Okay. Their only 2 wins were against the Falcons by 1 point and against the Seahawks 39-32. They lose to the Bengals, Vikings. They lost to the Panthers in week 3, and they lost to the Buccaneers 20-10. So they're only 2-4. We're 2-4. I mean, at least we're primed for Thursday Night Football mediocrity, right? We're just stepping right into the field goal to the 9-6 game coming up.
We're the perfect Thursday night team right now, right? We were Thursday night team before we got to Thursday night, right?
We've been ready for this. Chris Olave was out, Michael Thomas was out, Jarvis Landry was out, Marshawn Lattimore was out. They had to put Deontay Hardy on IR. Who else? And Adam Troutman was questionable today, but he did end up playing. So
yeah. The one thing I would say to your point, Evan, is the NFC there has been really bad in general. There's a lot of parity. I don't know if you'll need 10 wins to make the playoffs in the NFC. You might be able to get there with 9, but I don't know how confident I am getting to 9 wins. So, but
that's 7-4.
Yeah, and that's going to be tough. If you look at the Cardinals schedule, kind of going down the stretch, we got New Orleans, we've got Minnesota, who's got a good record. We got Seattle again, who apparently we can't beat them. Rams, Niners, Chargers are a good team. Patriots, I mean, listen, Patriots aren't a great team, but do you think Bill Belichick is going to lose to a team with an offense playing like our offense is? Bill Belichick is going to, coach circles around what Kingsbury's doing right now. This is, the Broncos, okay, we might beat them. They're having a rough year. The Buccaneers had a rough week, but they're a better team than their record, in my opinion. Falcons are frisky. I'm hopefully planning to go to that game. You'd think we'd beat them, but at this point, less confidence in that. And then 49ers, getting 7 wins out of that's they are not getting 7 wins out of that unless something changes drastically. Unless there's some sort of, some people will say fire the coach. I don't necessarily think that's what I mean by, because offenses do turn around. Teams turn around sometimes, right? But if we don't see this team figure it out offensively and turn it around, they're not winning that, right? They're not getting close. They're not sniffing 7 wins down the stretch, right? Yeah, not good. Real quick, let me say hi to some folks who've been in here. Appreciate Grandizer, great supportive content creators, just a great dude. Appreciate you being here. Tony, a channel member, great support of the channel. Thank you for being here. I know there's probably a number of other folks. Cruz, thanks for being here. Appreciate you hanging out with us. If I've missed anyone, Marcos had a super chat. Sorry, Marcos, I didn't catch this. And Marcos is helping us come around to the Sean Payton thing. And I think this is to help you, Jackie. The hate goes to Greg Williams, Saints defensive coordinator.
Absolutely. F that guy.
Sean Payton is fine. Not sure he would come here. So, okay. So, Sean Payton, we're going to kind of give him a pass, say that he didn't know about he was suspended. So clearly he was
enough for me.
But we're trying to talk ourselves into being okay with that. Right. So, listen, if we had a chance to get Sean Payton, I would be for that. He's a good coach, and I think he could make. I mean, he makes a winning offense with Taysom Hill as a quarterback, and Taysom Hill's a nice gadget player, maybe the best gadget player in the NFL, but he's not a full-time quarterback. But if he can make a good offense with Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, right? He can do something with Kyler. But of course, as always, I want to say thank you to Marcos for the super chat. All right, our therapy session has gone on an hour. I want to give you all a chance to kind of clear your notebooks. If there's anything you didn't get to talk about yet, you want to talk about, and then after that we'll get to kind of our ending shout outs and such. Jackie, is there anything that you wanted to discuss that we haven't had a chance to touch on thus far?
No, I'm looking through my notes and we hit on everything. I mean, all of my notes seem very positive, and I think I stopped taking notes after like the middle of the second half. Other than I did see some better play from Isaiah Simmons here and there. And Zaven Collins, I'm really glad that we're seeing him step up more, because I had wrote him off as a bust. And, I like to be wrong about those things.
Right, for sure. I'll be wrong 6 times a week, twice on Sunday, if it's wrong in a way that means my team is doing better than I expected, or a player on my team is doing better than expected, I should say. So I'm happy. Listen, I was not on the Zaven as a bust. I was on the let's at least see what happens in year 2. I kind of felt like the talent was there with him, like in terms of the physical tools are there. He plays strong and physical and aggressive, and he goes at he shoots gaps. He just needed to get kind of on the up to speed in terms of the playbook and stuff. But man, he's been one of their better defenders this year, so that's been nice to see for sure. Evan, anything that you want to get out on your notebook? Anything you want to clear there?
Thursday night is a must-win game now if we want our playoff hopes to stay alive.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. We're at that point now for sure. And as a segue, Evan, we're going to be doing a pregame show, me and you, on your channel, right? You want to do a quick shout out for that?
Correct.
Pitch that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a pregame show. So I believe the game kicks off at 6:15 Eastern Standard Time, or I forget what it was, but we're
like 7:15, I think. I'm looking at it right now. It is 8:15 Eastern Time.
8:15 Eastern, so 6:15 my time, 5:15 local time. So we're going to go on a half hour before the game. We're just going to chop it up, kind of recap what's been talked about these last couple weeks, or last couple days, excuse me, go over the injury report, and we're going to have a lot of fun on there. Was also going to extend the invite to Jackie if she can get away for a little pregame.
Let's do it.
Getting the band back together on Thursday.
Exactly. Yes. So we're going to have a preview show that day. That should be a lot of fun with us. So come join us on the He's on Fire podcast channel. We're also going to try to go live finally tonight for the first time in 3 weeks. So hoping we can do so as well. Just waiting on some of the guys to confirm with family things going on. But this is a must-win game. And, I honestly thought we were going to be 3-3 going in with Hop. It's going to be a new day. But now the narrative is this is a must-win game. So come and join us, and hopefully we'll have a lot of talk about post-game as well.
Make sure you subscribe. The link to the He's on Fire podcast is in the description below. Grandizer has shared it, has shared Evan's Twitter as well. Follow him there. Make sure you subscribe, and come check out that pregame on Evan's podcast YouTube channel with the whole band. I'm glad you're going to be there with the Checky about 30 minutes before the game, so we can kind of preview that. So please make sure you check that out. Jackie, what do you got to shout out?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at jsandiego. That is 2 O's. I mean, I mostly tweet about personal stuff, a little bit of sports here every now and then. I also co-host the Redbird Red Zone podcast. We try to go live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, I am a writer for AZ Sports Underground. Hopefully get to pump out some more content this week. I had to take a bye week last week. My child was on COVID IR, but we're good now.
Good. Glad to hear that they're better. Awesome. All right. Yeah. Make sure you follow Jackie. Got her links below. Appreciate her. They do some great work. Evan had to bounce for some family stuff real quick, but listen, everyone, this was a rough week. Things aren't looking good. Low point of the season. Thank you all for being here, though. This was our group therapy session, right? Appreciate everyone who was in here. I didn't get to say hey to everyone. Calvin, thanks for dropping by. Props to defense for their efforts. Thanks to everyone who was here hanging out with us. It's a rough week. It's starting to feel like it's going to be one of those, well, I guess there's always next year situations. It's looking like that, right?
Right.
Thank you to everyone for being here. We're going to do our shout outs to the channel members. We're going to get out of here. Make sure you subscribe to all of our content, all of our channels, follow all of us on Twitter. Jackie and Evan both do great work. I definitely appreciate them hanging out with me. So we will see y'all next time. Peace.